Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Michael Jamieson and I'm VP for Zycoo here in Europe. Welcome to this second week of training for our new UC Pro CTI software, and today we are repeating sales training. Shortly, Phil will be giving you an overview of UC Pro. He'll demonstrate the product's powerful features, and he'll also show you some of the business benefits the product can bring to your customers. We will also be repeating the more in-depth technical training session this Thursday at 3 p.m. So please, if you can, join us for that. If you have any questions during the session today, then you can raise them using the chat window, and myself and Javier in the background will do our best to answer them for you. Hope you find today's training both interesting and useful to you. And on that note, I shall hand you over to Phil.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Thanks for that. Good morning or good afternoon to everybody, depending where you are in the world today. We've been having a few sort of power problems in the last hour or so, so we're all keeping our fingers crossed that we don't have another power cut during the session. But if we do, I'm on the phone, so you won't lose me completely. But just in case, I'll just sort of pre-warn you there might be the odd issue. But hopefully we can get through the session in the next hour without too many problems. We're recording this session, but we also recorded the one that we did last week as well. So we have a full 1-hour video of last week's sales presentation. We managed to sort of tweak the volume and increase the volume a little bit. So if you're having problems hearing me from a sort of volume point of view, today and also with Michael, you'll be able to get hold of that video, and that'll give you a better sort of sound quality as well. So obviously stick with us. Hopefully you'll enjoy this presentation, but as I say, we have a good quality video of last week's session as well. So as I say, this is a sales presentation, so we're not going to get into any technical detail on today's presentation. We do that on Thursday, same time, same place. This is very much a case of just explaining to you what the product is, what it does, and what the benefits might be to your customers. It took me about an hour to get through the presentation. First of all, just an introduction. What is UC Pro? Well, it's a multi-platform CTI product. I'll explain what I mean by multi-platform in a moment, but it's designed to help your users make the optimal use of their phone system. And what we mean by that is they can control their handset from their computer, but also there's optional integration with a wide range of CRMs and other applications. So some of your clients, some of your customers might be interested in that optional integration, and other customers may only be interested in the the call control from their computer. So it's a case of talking to your customers and working out which options they actually require. This is as technical as we get on this presentation. Just a quick diagram just to show you how it all hangs together. Nothing changes as far as the phone system is concerned. You have the phone system in there, you have the user's extensions, but in addition there is a UC Pro server which is attached to the phone system over AMI, over an IP connection. If you would have got non-UC Pro AMI applications connected to the PBX, you might require some additional licensing for that additional AMI connection from the UC Pro server. But other than that, there's no other additional considerations. And then on each user's device, or user's PC or Mac, you then have the client software running, which then connects over an IP connection to the UC Pro server. As you'll see, as we go through the presentation, we have a PC version of the client, and we have a Mac version of the client as well. That's the standard user versions. There's also another client called the operator, and that's designed for one or more individuals in your client's company that may be interested in operator-type call control. So beyond the usual answering their own phone calls, this is answering calls on behalf of other people as well. We'll see that a little bit later. So we're going to begin the session looking at the PC client, first of all. And there are 3 versions of the PC client. There's a standard version, an extra version, and an integrator version. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see which versions support which features and functionality. And the idea is that when you start talking to your customers, once you understand what each of the versions does, you're then able to discuss with the customers, which versions their clients or their users might require. You might find everybody needs the standard version, except maybe the sales department maybe needs the integrator version to integrate into their CRM package, as an example. There is a lot of functionality, though, in all 3 versions. So a lot of the demonstration I'm going to give you in this first half of this presentation, those features are available in all 3 versions. All of the call control, etc., that you're going to see is in all 3 versions. There's also integration into Microsoft Outlook, Lotus Notes, and Google Contacts. Again, that's in all 3 versions of the client. So as you can see, that standard version is a bit of a misnomer. It's standard, but it has lots of functionality. On the slides as we go through, if the feature isn't available in the standard version, you'll see a little sort of footnote somewhere on the slide saying that it's available only in the extra or only in the integrator version. So you'll be able to see where that extra functionality is supported. If your customers do want that full CRM type integration or application integration, they definitely do need the integrator version of the PC client. So what I'm going to do, rather than show you lots of PowerPoint slides of the software, I'm going to actually do a live demonstration now of the actual software. I've got the PC client running on my laptop right now as we speak, but just to be clear, I'm not actually connected to a phone system. I'm running what's known as a demo version or a demonstration version of the PC client, and I'm also running a demonstration version of the server running on the same laptop. So my client is talking to my server in demonstration mode on my laptop. This is an example of what you can have available to you, and you can start to use this to demonstrate the product to your potential customers without needing to actually fully install the product and without needing to connect to a real phone system. As you'll see as I go through the demonstration, I can actually demonstrate pretty much all of the functionality with this particular setup without needing to be really attached to a phone system. If I right-click on the little icon that shows me my client is up and running, it brings up what's known as the system tray menu, and from here you can access quite a bit of the functionality of the product. First thing I'm going to show you is the address book. This is an integrated address book that sits on the UC Pro server. If you have customers that have formal CRMs or other applications where they store their contact information, they probably wouldn't be interested in this address book. But if you have smaller companies or clients that don't have a formal CRM, they might find this address book quite useful. It's on the UC Pro server, and all UC Pro users have access to this address book, and you can control whether they can view the information or whether they can update the information. So as an example, if I put a little search in there for Abby, it shows me all of the contacts in the address book that match that search. So I can search on the name, or I can search on the phone number, for example. So 1733 brings up a search of all these customers. If I click on the customer name, it actually brings up the contact record. Now you can see it's not a full CRM. It's not intended to replace dynamic CRM, for example, but it's a handy little tool that your customers can use to store basic contact information. You can even put notes in relating to a particular contact if you need to as well. So the reason I've shown you that is I'm going to close all that down, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to imitate a call coming in on my demonstration phone system. Rather than making a call, this is actually an incoming call, and the way I do that with my demonstration system is if I put an asterisk in front of the phone number and then type the phone number in, it actually shows it as coming as an incoming call. So that's a nice way to actually demonstrate when you're demonstrating the product, receiving calls rather than making them. Now, because that phone number is a known number within our address book, you can see it's actually giving us the caller ID. So even before I've answered the phone, I know exactly who it is who's actually calling me. At this point, I can deflect the call off. Maybe I don't want to speak to Abby Produce. I can deflect the call off. I can pop the contact record. So if I click on the little record, it brings up that contact record we were looking at earlier. So I have all the information I need about that, the caller that's calling me. I can even hover over the little notes icon in the far corner, and it shows me the note that was there as well. This display you see here is called the preview window. It's designed to be small and unobtrusive, so when the phone rings, it doesn't obscure all of your screen. If you prefer, you can have the larger phone window, and that obviously takes up a little bit more room, but it's a little bit more friendly because some of the layout is a little bit better, and the icons have sort of labels next to them. So users can choose whether to use the smaller preview window or the larger phone window. That call's still ringing at the moment. They've been very patient. If I click answer, these icons then change, and I have more call control. I can consult with a colleague, and I can transfer the call over. I can still pop the contact record as well. Something else that I have available to me as a UC Pro user is a present screen. And what the present screen shows me is all of my other colleagues that are running UC Pro, and it shows me the status of their phone at the moment, so I can see whether or not they're busy. So this caller, Abby Produce, have asked me a question. I don't know the answer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call one of my colleagues, Ian Deacon, and ask him the question. Now I can see he's available. He's not on the phone, so that's good, because it doesn't mean I'm going to waste time, or more importantly, waste Abby Produce's time ringing somebody that's not going to answer the phone. I right-click on Ian's name, click Consult, and what automatically happens is the Abbey producer are put on hold, so the system puts them on hold, and then it rings Ian Deacon for me. You see his numbers flashing at the moment. We're waiting for him to answer. And once that stops flashing, as it does now, you can see he's now off hook, and I'm now speaking to Ian. Once I've spoken to Ian, I have a choice. I can either transfer the call over to Ian, so I can just literally click the transfer button to transfer the call over, or what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to cancel the call, and it puts me back talking to Abbey Produce, and I can give them the answer that I received from Ian. The important thing here from a usability point of view is that your users, or your customers' users, don't need to be aware of how the phone system works. They don't need to know which buttons to push in order to transfer calls from one colleague to another. It's all done within the software, and it's much more intuitive to do it this way rather than understanding the actual operation of the phone system. So I'm just going to hang up that call. Something else I can do, I can actually pick up calls as well. So in a similar vein, this time I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to ring Ian's number again, 201. And you can see his phone is ringing. So let's pretend it was somebody else ringing him. I can right-click on his name, and I can pick up the call. So again, as a user, from the user point of view, I don't need to understand which buttons to push to pick up calls of my colleagues ringing on my colleagues' extensions, or I don't have to go over to their phone and actually pick up the handset. Do that all from the software. I'll just hang up those calls. When you take a message for someone, or when you take a call for someone, you often need to leave them a message to tell them that somebody has been trying to contact them. You can leave them a note. Other than that, you can actually use the software, and you can use the send message facility, and you can then just type out your message, hit enter, and that message will then appear as a preview window, just like when you have an incoming call. So when Ian returns to his desk, he'll see that preview window being displayed, and then he can pick up that message. He can respond to that message to let me know he's received it, or he can just close the message box down. So again, you can use the software to communicate with your colleagues. So that's receiving calls on your own phone and picking up calls on other people's phone. Obviously, an important thing as well is to be able to make calls. You've seen a couple of examples already. From here, you can either dial a real phone number, either an extension or a real phone number, and you can ring people from there. You can go into the recent list, and this shows you a list of all of your most recent calls. So if you want to call somebody back from 5 minutes ago, you can just pick the number and automatically ring them back. You have a larger, or a more detailed call history, and in here it shows all of your incoming and outgoing calls over a period of time. And it also shows your missed calls as well. So in a sales environment, that's particularly important. You need to be able to see who's been trying to contact you, and you can very quickly call them back. You can do that straight from the list, so you can click the phone number, and it automatically ring that number back again. In the name column, if there's a proper name in there, it means it's actually a contact that's in your address book, or as we'll find out later, in your integrated application. So if you click on that, it'll actually then bring up that record so you can see the information relating to that caller. If it's a location like this one, Hartford, a city or town in England, what that means is that this phone number isn't recognized in the shared address book or in the integrated application. It's not somebody that we've spoken to before. But what you can do is if you click on the location, it then opens up an empty contact record for you, puts the phone number in there. You can then fill in the rest of the fields and then click save, and then the next time you get a phone call from that number, or you make a call to that number, it'll be in the address book, and then their information will be available to you. You can actually do that while you're on a call as well. You can either maybe look at your calls at the end of the day and fill in the missing ones, or actually while you're on a call, if it's somebody new, you can hit the new contact button and start to fill in information while you're actually talking to them on the phone, which is quite a useful feature. That's all the different call controls. A couple of things I couldn't show you in the demonstration, just a little bit difficult to actually demonstrate. The first one is receiving forwarded calls. Now the idea of this is that one of your colleagues is has their call forwarding switched on. So this preview window is going to appear, and they're forwarding their calls to you. This window is going to appear as normal to you. The benefit, though, is it actually shows you who forwarded the call as well. So you can see who the caller is, but you can also see who forwarded the call, which one of your colleagues forwarded the call. The advantage to this from your customer's point of view is that when they answer the phone, they can answer it in a much more professional way. They can say, this is Phil speaking, my colleague Wendy is not available, how can I help you? So that's quite a useful feature in terms of users that receive forwarded calls from their colleagues. The little preview window that I showed you earlier doesn't have to sit in the bottom right-hand corner. You can drag and drop it into any one of the 4 corners of the screen, and then it'll automatically reposition into the far extreme of that corner. So most people tend to leave it in the bottom right. You can put it into whichever one of the corners is preferable for you. The present screen, as I showed you a little bit earlier, with all the users on it, on Windows 8 and 10 systems, you can actually dock that present screen on the far right-hand side of your screen. Now, not everybody's going to want to do that, but your customer may have certain users that always want to have the present screen showing on their computer. Maybe they're an operator type user. And the way that works then is that everything else then sits to the sort of the left-hand side of that present screen. So not everybody's going to use that, but it's a feature that's available if it's required. Availability is the next thing to look at. You may have seen when I pulled up the present screen that it's showing me as available. Where that's actually come from is in my system tray menu. I have a drop-down that allows me to manually set my availability. So I can set that in any way I want, so that when any users look at me on the present screen, they can actually see what my availability status is. So that could be done on a manual basis. There's also features within the product that allow your availability to be created in an automated sense rather than in a manual sense. If I just bring up the configurator, just make that screen a little bit larger, you better see it. You can see that screen a little bit better. So there's things that you can set on the PC client. So for example, if you tick the detect meeting software option, what that means is whenever you're in an online meeting, like you are now on GoToWebinar, or on a Skype call, for example, the software will automatically turn your availability into in an online meeting without you having to remember to do that manually, which is quite useful. There's inactivity detection as well. So as soon as your keyboard or mouse goes unused for a certain period of time, it will automatically set your availability status to away from desk, again, without you remembering to have to do that. And if you manually lock your screen or manually lock your computer, you can decide what availability status to automatically be displayed until you then unlock your computer again. There's also calendar integration as well. So what you can have with that is that you can have your Outlook calendar events automatically control your availability status. So if you have meetings or other calendar events in your Outlook calendar, the UC Pro software will automatically then change your availability to match whatever those calendar events are, whether it's a meeting, whether you're working away, or even if it's outside your working hours, if you've defined your working hours within your Outlook calendar. Done for you automatically rather than manually controlling your availability status. The problem or the consideration with that feature, though, is that it requires the user's PC to be switched on, and it requires the UC Pro PC client to actually be up and running on their computer. And that's great if they work in an office, because that's probably going to be the case. But if they work out of the office, their computer may be switched off, or they may not be attached to the UC Pro server. So we have a separate optional feature called the Exchange Calendar Integration. And what that does is it allows the UC Pro server to connect directly to the Microsoft Exchange server and obtain users' information, their calendar and their events information from the Exchange server, users' local Outlook calendar. So if you have customers that have a lot of users that work out of the office, and you want those users to be able to sort of correctly reflect their availability, especially when they're out of the office, then the Exchange Calendar Integration is probably a feature that they will be interested in. That's an optional feature. There's additional licensing involved in that. Another sort of knock-on from the availability is that you can then have the software do other things for you based on what your current availability is. So I've got, again, another one set up. Let me just bring the configurator up. So I've got a couple of examples set up here. So these are all the different types of availability you see on the left-hand side, the sort of statuses that could be your currently set status. What I've done with my meeting availability is I've actually set it up so that when I enter that status, it automatically forwards my calls to extension 201, one of my colleagues. And then when I exit that status, when I come out of a meeting, either I've done that manually or the software has done it automatically, it will automatically then redirect my calls back to my extension again. So the software is not only calculating my availability status for me automatically without me having to remember to do so, But as well as doing that, it's actually then taking certain actions, such as forwarding calls to another extension, or forwarding them to my mobile extension, for example. It's doing that for me automatically as well. So particularly powerful feature that the software is doing for for the UC Pro user. That's one of those examples where that's available in the extra and the integrator versions. So if your customers particularly like the idea of availability-based actions, those users that want to use that will need either the extra or the integrator version of the PC client rather than the standard version. So it's one of those features that's in the extra version. Something else we support is the BusyLight device. You may not be familiar with that. Look at their website, busylight.com, for more information. It's a product by a company called Quando. And as you can see from the picture, it's a little device that sits on user screens to show whether they're on a call or not, whether they're busy or available. Particularly useful in environments where everyone sits with a headset on and you can't actually see if they're speaking to themselves or a colleague or whether they're actually on the phone or not. What UC Pro can do, can interact with that. It's a USB sort of plug-and-play device, and we can then control the color of the device based on the UC Pro call status, whether they're on a call, whether they're in held, or whether they're available or not. So if your customers use BusyLight, then we can support that directly in UC Pro. So we've looked so far at the basic dialing features, receiving incoming calls, picking up users' calls, and making calls. And there's a few dialing options that I want to show you now. These are sort of extra features. They're all available in the standard version of the product, so we haven't got into the area of integration yet, but your customers may or may not be interested in them. I'm going to show you 3 examples of the power of some of these dialing features. The first one's called clipboard dialing. And the idea of clipboard dialing is if you pick up any phone number and you just copy that into your Windows clipboard, it will automatically offer the chance to dial that number. And if you click the balloon, it'll actually dial that number for you. Could be useful if you have a customer that does lots of web research or document-based research where they're finding phone numbers and they automatically then want to ring that number. Rather than manually having to type out that number on their handset, they can literally just copy it into their Windows clipboard and then dial the number directly from there. So that could be useful to certain customers of yours. Another example is the web page dialing. So if we're going to the Zycoo website, for example, what it can do is it can convert any phone numbers that are on a web page into hyperlinks. So you can literally click on the phone number and automatically it will dial that number directly from the web page. Can be obtrusive, you wouldn't necessarily be switched on, but it's very useful if you have customers that do want to dial numbers directly from web pages. It works with all the currently supported web browsers, all the common web browsers. To control that, we'll look at this in a bit more detail in the technical training on Thursday, but just to show you where that's actually controlled. On the dialing section of the configurator of the PC client, down below you have a minimum and maximum length that you can set. So you can say that phone numbers have to be at least 7 characters and up to 12 digits, for example. You can also set the starting digit as well. So you can control pretty much what a phone number looks like in your local country to make sure that it doesn't convert 3-digit numbers into a hyperlink. So there's a bit of control there that you can use for that kind of functionality. The third example that I want to show you is what's known as in-application dialing. And the idea of in-application dialing is if you have a customer that only wants to have dialing from within a particular application, they're not necessarily interested in the full integration. They have an application that maybe they've written themselves, or maybe it's a bought-in package, a purchase package, but they just want to speed up the dialing process by having a little dialing icon next to a phone number so they can dial it directly from within the application. I'm going to demonstrate this to you and show you how easy it is to set up. I'm going to use Outlook Contacts because it's just a nice, easy tool to actually demonstrate. But this could be any application, and it's like a contact-based application, and it has a phone number filled in. So what the customer's looking for is the ability to be able to literally dial that number directly from within the application. So we call this in-application dialing. And the way that you actually set this up is you open up the configurator, as I had it open a little bit earlier, go into the dialing section, and the first thing you do is you enable the application dialing feature. That wouldn't normally be enabled, but I've got that ticked already. And then down below you have the facility to then add in one or more applications. So you click on the Add button, a little dialog pops up, and says, okay, well, what kind of application is it that you want to do this dialing from? Is it a web-based application? Is it a Microsoft application? Does it run in a browser? On this particular case, I'm going to use the any other type of standard Windows application. That one works quite well. And what you'll find when I click that is you get this little dialog pop up with a target. And the idea is that you pick the target up, you drag and drop it over to the right-hand side into the field where you have your phone number. So you're teaching the application where the phone number sits that you want to do the dialing from. If you keep your eye on the left-hand side for a moment while I drag this target over, you'll see as I hover over the different fields on the right-hand screen, it's showing me the contents of those fields. But as soon as I drop or I hover over the phone number, then you see on the left-hand screen it's showing that it's actually recognized that as a phone number, and that means it's a field that it can potentially dial from. I haven't let go yet, so I've dragged but haven't dropped. But when I drop, then I get a confirmation message coming up saying, okay, would you like to add this into your in-application dialing? I click yes. It's added those in. If I click save, it then updates my UC Pro client settings. So hopefully, sometimes I have to stop and start the client, but no, it hasn't required me to do that. So straight away, you can see I've now got a dialing icon next to my phone number, and I can literally just dial the number straight from there. I've even got a hang-up icon as well, so I can actually hang up the call from there as well. So if you have a customer that just wants to add that functionality into an application, then they can do that very quickly. It took less than a couple of minutes to do that, and that's a particularly powerful feature. That's available even in the standard version of the PC client. The next thing I'm going to show you is CRM integration. Now, in order to get this to work correctly, I just need to very quickly update my client just to remove that functionality. So just bear with me a minute. I'm just going to stop and start the client because occasionally it gets a little bit upset with taking that in and out. You wouldn't normally do this on a live system, but it's just required on my demonstration. So I'm just starting the client back up again. It takes just 10 seconds. You see the client started back up. So that's how quick it is to actually get the client up and running. So what we're going to talk about now is CRM integration. This is the full integration into a standard CRM type package. Maybe that's Microsoft CRM, Dynamics CRM, for example. We support a whole range of different CRMs. We'll look at that in a moment. And I'm going to show you how to set it up and then explain what that actually provides to the users. So when you talk to your customers about this integration, you understand what it is that it can do for your customers. So I'm going to demonstrate this using, again, the configurator. And I'm going to show you how to actually do this. We look at this again on Thursday in the technical, but I want to sort of show you how simple this is to actually do. So you go into the integration section, you click Add New, and it shows you a dialog box. And when you open up the type, it shows you all the different applications that are currently supported for this integration, lots of well-known household name applications. I don't have these running on my demonstration laptop, so I'm just going to cheat and I'm just going to use Microsoft Outlook just for this particular presentation, but it works pretty much the same way. When you select the product that you want to do the integration with, a couple of seconds delay, and then the screen updates, and then it asks you a series of questions to get that integration up and running. Depending which product you pick in the top selection box, it will ask you different questions. It could be the address of the server, it could be an administrator's username and password to be able to access that application server. We have separate documents for each of the products that we support in integration. So when you're ready to start setting this up for customers, we have a document that talks you through setting it up for each one of the different applications that's supported. In the case of my Microsoft Outlook Contacts, it's very simple because it's just asking me for my, my folders, which I'm leaving as a default. So you're going to answer a sequence of questions to get the integration up and running, but you can then test to see if it's actually working because there's a little test down below. So if I type in a phone number that I know exists in my application and I click search, then you'll see I've got a search result come up and it said, yes, I can find a contact with that phone number. That confirms that your integration is correctly set up. If you don't get that correct test, then somewhere up above, something that you've entered in hasn't been sort of entered correctly. It could be an address or it could be a password or whatever. So once you've got that successful, click Save. Again, it will update the UC Pro settings. I'm just going to go into the configure, make sure it's actually saved it correctly. There you go. So it's got my Microsoft Outlook is there as one of the products that I'm integrated with. So what you have here then is two benefits to your customers with having this integration switched on. The first one is an extension of what I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. So if I have an incoming call from somebody that I know is in my Outlook contacts, then you'll see it actually gives me the same preview window that we had before, but I now have two icons. I have one that I can pop the contact from the shared address book, because this person happens to be in my shared address book as well. But also, I've got another icon that's relevant to the particular application that I have the integration switched on for. In this case, it's Outlook. And when I click on that, it automatically pops the contact from within that application as well. So the first half of the point of integration is that you can very quickly, when you receive an incoming call from somebody that's stored in your application, you can very quickly find that contact and display that contact's information. So rather than your users having to manually search for that person while they're answering the phone, they can do that very, very quickly. So that's one advantage of the integration. If I just close that call down. The other advantage of the integration is that when you go into the address book search, as we had earlier, and you type in your search, the address book search is actually a consolidated search. So it shows you everything that is found in the address book. So it's found my hits in the address book, but it's also searching for any of my integrated applications as well. So to find this person's phone number, even in my dynamic CRM or whatever other application I'm integrated into, it'll actually show it in the search results, and I can dial directly from here as well. So I don't even have to go into the integrated application in order to be able to find the person I want to call and also dial their number. If I want to actually pop their record, I can do that, and I can pop their record up again as well. So once I'm on the call with them, I might want to go into the application, and then I can do that very, very quickly. That's the purpose of the integration. So you may have customers that have invested large amounts of money in a formal CRM system, possibly hundreds or tens of thousands of pounds getting all the data into their CRM system, but they still have their sales operatives or their salespeople manually typing in searches to try and find contacts when they're on the phone. That's not a particularly clever way of using that CRM. That's what the integration is all about. There's three levels of integration. The first one is called standard integration, and that's all of the globally established products that I showed you on that drop-down list a little bit earlier. We then have partner integrations, and these are for products that are industry-specific normally. So any given application or any given industry has applications very specific to that industry, whether it's retail or construction or human resources. So we support a wide range of industry-specific applications, and we've built that support in with the idea that we will continue to support those products as new versions of those products come out. So both the standard integration and the partner integrations can actually be configured either by the customer or by you guys. You've seen me do it today with my demonstration. It's as easy as that with those other applications. So you or your customers can actually do that integration and set that integration up. We have another feature called other integrations, and this is much more specific, where we've done the integration for a very specific product, probably for a very specific version of that product, which would require quite a bit of reworking if that product then changed versions. So what we're saying there is that it's a little bit less standard, a little bit less supported. It will work, but generally it would be us that would need to do the installation and the configuration of that integration. And there's no guarantee that it will immediately work when the new version of that application comes out. We may need to do some additional work to keep that integration up and running. So generally it will be standard and partner integrations that you'll be dealing with your customers, but you may have the odd customer that has a application that we need to treat in a slightly different way. That concludes our look at the, I've still got a call running, hang on a moment. Okay, that concludes our look at the PC client. What we're going to look at now is the Mac client, very briefly. Good news for that is if you have customers that use Mac devices, then pretty much everything I've shown you on the PC client works in the same way on the Mac client as well. So all of the call control, the presence, the chat messaging, the call history, the browser dialing through Safari, and the clipboard dialing, they all work on the Mac client as well. There's two versions of the Mac client. There's a standard and integrated. We don't have an extra version of the Mac client. Both of those versions support integration into the OSX contacts book as well as the shared address book in UC Pro. They also support the OSX contacts book as well, like I showed you with the Outlook contacts on the PC side. As far as sort of integrating into applications goes, obviously because it's a Mac, then most of those other applications don't run on the Mac device, but we do support the Enterprise edition of Salesforce. So if you have customers that use Macs and they use the Enterprise Edition of Salesforce, that integration I showed you a moment ago can also be achieved on the Mac side of things as well. The other client that we have is called Operator. If you have a customer that maybe has, I don't know, 100 users or 1,000 users, chances are that only one or two of those users would want to use this Operator client, but it is a very powerful client, and you need to be aware of its availability, because chances are one of your customers may be interested in using this feature for one or more of their users. It's essentially the same thing that I've showed you on the PC side, but it has additional operator-type call control. So it's designed for a person in a company whose job it is not only to answer their own phone, but also to answer other extensions as well, whether that's a true formal operator or whether just somebody within maybe one office is tasked with answering the calls coming into that office, regardless of which extensions those calls come in on. The way it works is it's the same kind of thing. So you have your UC Pro users using their PC or their Mac. The Operator client is just another client. It installs on the user's PC. It only works on PC. It doesn't work on Mac. And it connects over IP address, over IP connection, to the UC Pro server in exactly the same way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my PC client. I'm just going to start up my Operator client. Again, this is just a demonstration version that's running on my demo PC. That'll take a couple of seconds just to start up. There we go. Now, as you can see, it's not particularly exciting when I first start the client up. It's actually running in the same way. So if you actually right-click on it, you get the same system tray menu and everything else in the background. But this is the main console. On the left-hand side is where you have the call control of your incoming calls and held calls and connected call. On the right-hand side, you have various tabs. And I start clicking on these tabs, you'll see some proper data appearing. So there's a presence tab, which is exactly like the presence screen that you saw on the PC side. There's a contacts tab, and if you start to search down below, you'll find that it then shows you the same kind of search criteria that we had on the address book. There's a history tab, so you can see all of your call history, and there's a messages tab as well. So this Operator console is essentially a sort of consolidated console where all of the different user interfaces that you saw on the PC side are available as tabs, permanently displayed on the Operator console. On the left-hand side, you have the call control. I'm just going to start up a couple of calls and just sort of show you how this actually works. Just bear with me. I just need to do this manually. It's a bit painful to do it manually, but I've just got to get these calls started up. One more. Actually, because I've got the clipboard dialing still switched on, it's actually picking it up from my clipboard dialing. Okay, so now you can see I have a range of calls connected and held, etc. So these are my incoming calls. This is my currently connected call. Let's cancel that one off. So what I can do is I can literally answer any one of these calls in the queue, and it'll make that call the connected call, and it'll put the other calls into the held section. What you'll notice with me being on the Auto tab is when I pick any one of the calls on the Auto tab, it's automatically then updating that with information relating to that caller. So it's showing the contact record for that caller. What it'll also show is if that caller has spoken to somebody else in my organization, it'll also show the recent callers in here as well, which is quite useful if somebody rings back and says, I was speaking to somebody yesterday, I'm not sure what their name was, but I need to talk to them again. The Operator can see who it was that A1 Accommodation spoke to a couple of days ago. So the Operator can answer calls coming in on their own extension, but in the configuration, what they can also do is on their telephony tab. So this is the Operator's extension, 204, but down below you have an extensions tab. And what you can do in there is you can say, for example, that I want to also answer the incoming calls on other extensions as well. And those calls will appear on the incoming call list. They can't be answered out of order. The Operator can only answer their own calls out of order. But those calls actually appear there, and the Operator can pick up those calls and answer them in the normal way. So that's the idea of the Operator sort of console. In terms of the presence, then the Operator can actually, let me just hang up that call, the Operator can take a call and push that directly over to to somebody in the present screen. You can literally drag and drop that call over to somebody in the present screen. So you can push it over without even answering the call, or you can answer the call, and then from here you then have the same kind of call control that you saw in my original demonstration, where you can consult and you can transfer with people. So essentially the operator console is the same functionality as the PC console, but it's just all packaged up into a nice console that the assumption being that the person using this would have this displayed, if not all of the time, then certainly most of the time on their PC. That's the operator console. There's another feature, an extra feature in the operator console. If you have customers that like this feature and the operator user is likely to be answering calls on behalf of different departments, calls coming into different DDI, DID numbers, we have a thing called dialed number scripting as well, and you can tie that into the particular number. So when the operator answers the call on that number, the script appears on their console, so they can then answer the call using that particular text. So a proper formal welcome to the person actually calling, and there can be different text for different incoming numbers. So that's particularly useful if you have an operator that's operating in a multi-tenant, multi-company type environment. That's pretty much the end of the main demonstration. Just a few miscellaneous bits and pieces to show you as well, but that's the main sort of functionality of the product. We have a feature called Active Directory Integration. We look at this in more detail on Thursday. Essentially, you can create UC Pro users either manually, by going into the server configuration and manually creating users, or you can have the software create users based on their Windows login name and password. Both of those ways of creating users are perfectly fine. They work fine. But another optional feature is to take advantage of the customer's Active Directory, because all of their users are defined in Active Directory, and we can actually then extract information from AD and create UC Pro user accounts based on that Active Directory integration information. That's an additional cost feature, particularly designed for customers that you may have that have a large number of users, where you want to very quickly deploy UC Pro across hundreds, maybe even thousands of users, and that's a quick way of actually getting that user community created on the UC Pro server from information that's already there and available. So that's called Active Directory Integration. We also have a feature called UC Pro Site, and the idea of that is that you may have a customer that has more than one location, and they want to have UC Pro running at both locations. So in this particular example, there are 2 sites, but we support up to 6 different phone systems, 6 different sites. So at site number 1, you have the phone system, and you have the UC Pro server. What you can do with this, though, is you can have the second phone system at the second site connected through to the UC Pro server. So you don't have to have the UC Pro server at the second site. And the users can then connect through remotely to the UC Pro server at site number 1. You can have up to 6 different phone systems connected to the same single UC Pro server. The advantage of this is that all these users can talk to each other. They can share presence, they can share the address book, they can share messaging as well. So it's like a community of UC Pro users. The downside of this, though, is if you have connectivity issues between the 2 sites, then these users, even though they can continue to use their local phone system, they won't be able to use the UC Pro sort of software on their PC. They won't be able to communicate with UC Pro users in site 1. They won't be able to see the presence or see the address book. So they'll lose UC Pro functionality. If there is an issue, if you have a customer that has quite a poor connection between the 2 sites, an alternative to UC Pro Site is a feature called Federation. It looks very similar, but what you actually have here is you actually have a UC Pro server also installed at site number 2, and the 2 servers talk to each other across the network connection. The advantage of that is that these users at site number 2, if there's a problem with the connection between the 2 servers, they're still connected to their local UC Pro server, which means they can carry on using the software. The only downside is they can't see the presence, or they can't message with their colleagues in site number 1. Also, each server has its own shared address book. So unlike with the site option, where there's one address book shared amongst all of the sites, this one you have a shared address book at site 1 and a shared address book at site 2. So when you're talking to potential customers, if they have multiple buildings or multiple properties, they want to have UC Pro running both of them or all of them, they have 2 options: either one server and then have the other sites connect into the server, or they can have a server installed at each one of those properties. And again, we support to 6 sort of clusters of servers or sites in that particular environment. You've probably got customers that use Link and or Skype for Business. There's a couple of features in there within UC Pro. Two features. One is dial directly from the Link client. What that means is that on the Link side of things, if the customer has their Link client running on their PC and the UC Pro client running on their PC, it automatically enables this call using desk phone functionality, so the user can actually make calls through their Link client, even though that functionality wouldn't normally exist. It's the UC Pro client that's actually adding that functionality to Link. There's also one called Update Link Status, and there's an option that you click in the configurator. And what that does is if your user is on a call on UC Pro, when other users look at that user through Link, they can see that that user is on a call. So even though they didn't make the call through their Link software, they're shown as being in a call when other users look at them on the Link side of things. How that actually hangs together is that you have the user's PC. This is PC only, not Mac. They have their Link client, which communicates with the Link server, but they also have their UC Pro client running on the same PC, and that enables the functionality through the Link client through the UC Pro server to the phone system. So it's actually enabling the functionality in that direction rather than through the Link server trying to talk to the phone system. So that's a quick sort of summary of the benefits. We've seen most of these already, but just a quick sort of wrap up of what we've seen today. Right at the very beginning of the presentation, we saw the sort of call controls and how users can receive incoming calls. They can see who's calling them. They can transfer calls to their colleagues. They can pick up colleagues' calls. So what we're saying here is that your customers will be able to provide a much better sort of call handling service when their customers call them, and a much more professional way of handling those incoming calls. So it allows them to be more professional in the way that they receive calls. It can also help them to improve the performance of making calls. So rather than manually trying to find the contacts in your CRM or other application, you can find them automatically and you can dial them very quickly. So if you have a customer that either receives lots of calls or makes lots of calls, then hopefully you can see from the demonstration that UC Pro provides good functionality and good performance in terms of sort of speeding up that process. I'm just going to hang up all these calls that we're ringing. Other functionality or other benefits in terms of the CRM side of things is if you have a customer that has invested a large amount of money in a CRM, hopefully again from that demonstration you can see that you can leverage that information in the CRM. So rather than having users manually searching for contacts, you can actually pick up that information very quickly through UC Pro. So lots of benefits there in terms of functionality. And just users using the phone system in general, they don't need to understand the phone system. As long as they can understand the software, which is quite intuitive, then they can get up and running quite quickly. A couple other sort of sales points. The standard version, most of what I showed you today is in that standard version, except for the integration that we looked at. So chances are that when you're talking to your customer, then you can probably show them the standard version first of all. It's relatively inexpensive. Show them the basic functionality, like I showed you today, and then later on you can then start to sort of introduce them to some of the more additional features, like the operator or like the integration side of things. So you can use that inexpensive standard option to get the customers sort of interested in looking at the product, and then introduce the other features a little bit later on. Something else that's quite an important thing to mention is that the UC Pro server doesn't have to sit on its own dedicated device. It doesn't have to have its own dedicated server. Obviously, if your customer has one available, then that's great. It's for optimum performance. But if it's a relatively small customer, maybe less than 50 users, UC Pro server will run quite happily on a shared server. So in that, and if your customer doesn't want to invest in any additional hardware, and if they have a spare underutilized server lying around, then they can use that server to host the UC Pro server. That's it for the sales presentation. I'm going to bring Michael back in just to do a quick wrap up. Just to reiterate, we're doing a technical presentation on Thursday, and what that presentation goes through is the installation and the configuration of both the UC Pro server itself, but also the PC, the Mac client, and the operator client as well. It's about a 1 hour, 10-minute presentation, and it's designed for people that are interested in the installation and configuration of the software. We also go through the integration side of things as well, just to show you how that actually gets set up. Michael.
Thanks, Phil. As Phil mentioned, UC Pro is available on 30-day evaluation, so if you haven't done so already, please do download it and give it a try, as it is great software. Also, please encourage your customers to give it a try as well, and let them see firsthand how the product can help them be more productive. And at the end of the 30 days, there is a revenue opportunity for you if your customers want to keep the product. If you have any further questions, then please do contact myself or one of the sales team. For Europe, we have a shared email address that you can contact us on, which is eu@zycoo.com. Finally, thanks again for attending today, and I hope to see you again on Thursday.